Hey guys, this is Growth Beast, co-founder of Growth Stories, the first on-chain marketing newsletter in the space, and welcome to the third edition of the Marketing Minicast. Today we've got Justin Vogel, co-founder of Safari, one of the first marketing FI players rebuilding analytics and attribution side of the Web3 marketing stack. So if you're a marketer looking to join the most exclusive growth community in Web3, look no further. Cohort 7 is out, and I'm sure there's probably one coming out again. We'll find out.
Let's do it. Excited to be here.
Look, Safari has seen really good growth organically as a Web3 brand. What do you think contributed the most to that specific growth?
I think the obvious contributor is our community. So we're one of the most unique companies in the Web3 growth space because we actually built ourselves community first. We first started by wrangling all the best growth leaders together into an intimate space, learning from them, having them help each other, and then building a platform accordingly. So I think that this both uniqueness of how we started our brands, but also the unique distribution channels that community-led growth provides definitely catapulted us into the successful brand we are today.
That probably differentiates you most from all competitors, right? This all-star community. What's the selection criteria for choosing participants in your cohorts?
It's getting harder and harder every batch, as I'm sure you're aware. Today, we select 80 new members of the community twice per year in cohorts and batches, but we get 700 to 1,000 applicants each batch these days. So we're accepting 7 to 10% of those that apply. And as you know, especially now in the bear market, the quality has gone up. There are a lot fewer tourists, so to speak. So these 700 to 1,000 are all very seasoned operators, founders of notable companies. And so a lot of the times we're for every batch, we're looking to maximize the diversity of company that we select. So every batch of 80, there will be no two people from the same team. So we'll be looking for 80 unique companies that are interesting in that moment. That's what we look for first. Typically early stage to mid-size companies. We think that's where the most interesting growth challenges are. Less so if you're in the Coinbase and MoonPays of the world that have already proven them out and are biggish companies. We're looking for the up and coming dexes, the new ecosystems, the first project on a new chain. All of those types of things provide really ample opportunity for interesting growth stories.
Hey, growth stories. Good shout out. Good shout out. Wow, 700 to 1,000. I didn't expect this high of a number, and I think it's going to get easier to get into Harvard if we keep growing. I know you were telling me at ETC that you've organized quite a few meetups before, right? So I guess this is very fruitful. It's something that we're looking to organize, Kiara and I, the second edition of the Marketing Lounge in Singapore. So those listening, just make sure to join us, sign up below. I've added a link in the description. Next question that I've been dying to ask you is how did you secure the trust of the first 2 to 5 major members, right? You don't really start a community unless you have a big nucleus.
The way that I started Safari's community is I just started reaching out to people on LinkedIn. At that point in time, I was 1 month into my crypto journey. So I still had this a non-Twitter account with 100 followers. So I started finding, and I didn't really know who was a growth leader by looking on Twitter either. It wasn't that easily identifiable. So I started reaching out on LinkedIn. I met probably 10 to 15 different growth leaders that way over the course of a month. Pitched them my idea of what Safari's community would be all about. And from there, got the first few members. And one of those members was the head of growth at Ledger, this great guy, Ludo Simon. He's based out of Paris. He was like, I have this idea to do a growth community too, it's super needed. And I was like, well, why don't I just pitch you what I have in mind for Safari? And if you like it, then you can join my community. And if you don't like it, then you can start your own. And so when I sent him the first vision of Safari, he's like, this is exactly what I had in mind. I'm down to join and be the first member. So that really helped us sort of begin the process of creating this really elite group of Web3 growth leaders. And to have somebody like Ludo validate that this was important to him helped, I think, pave the way to bring other really elite growth leaders like Ludo into the fold.
Right. Okay. So it was kind of a step by step, right? Like a snowball effect, so to speak, in terms of scaling. What I like, what you've done with Safari is community activation. I feel like, or at least from what I've seen, there are Telegram groups, there are these so-called communities, but they're silent. Let's not call them dead. They're just silent, right? How do you approach community activation? How often do you engage with your community, and what results have you seen?
I think that the important thing about community activation is to have a ritual, whatever that is for your community. For our community, when I was looking at the sort of communities of 2021, these massive Discord servers, I was like, wow, this is a huge disaster to like moderate and manage all these text threads across all these different channels. And so for us, I really took the exact opposite approach. I said, Safari is going to be an audio-based community. We're going to have calls at the same time every single week, and that creates a ritual. And so for us, that's always been our core engagement metric for the now 2.5+ years that we've been running Safari's community. And I think that having a simple way that members know is a repeatable way that they can engage, whether they decide like they join Safari and then they forget about us for 4 months, they know that there's going to be a call on Tuesday at 11 a.m. ET. And that's a way to sort of like keep that consistency within the community, to see the same people each week, but also for people that want to re-engage to know exactly how they can re-engage, whether it's 1 month, 6 months, or 12 months down the line. So I think that the ritual aspect is really, really key. I always tell community leaders that if you want consistent engagement, you have to be consistent yourself.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise you don't really build a brand, right? With 3 tweets a week. Uh, in this founder-led growth era, I think you're a prime example of growth done right in this regard. So how has having your strong personal brand as a founder and Web3 marketer contributed to Safari's growth?
We switch. It's really hard, as any founder listening knows, to do everything at once. And I feel like I've found success from really doubling down on one channel at a time and then coming back to it later. So the beginning stages of Safari's community were I was all in on the community and not doing that much content myself. Then as the community stabilized, then I got more into doing content first as a pseudonymous identity. So I was Anon for the first like 7 months that I was in crypto, as a pseudonymous founder of this new community. And then I merged my identities together as a product builder too. But I think that it is becoming more and more important for founders to be and especially heads of growth, heads of marketing, to be sharing their insights on Twitter and these other places. It really humanizes your brands in a way that brand accounts just can't really cut through the noise unless you're naturally sort of like created that aura around your brand. I think that the unique advantage that Safari has too as a community first brand is that we can kind of have like a less of a corporate feel, I guess, to our brands, because we've always had that feeling. Our blog is like basically fully decentralized. Like we have like 40 posts on our blog. I've written 2 of them as like a sort of like metric for like the difference of like a normal corporate blog. You'd write 100% of the posts versus us. It's like the exact opposite. Our Safari members have written the large majority of the posts. So I think that's all to say that founder-led brands are really important, but it also needs to match the style of your brand.
I really want you to share some insights on creating effective lead magnets. Right. I mean, the Farcaster Growth Playbook was incredibly successful, right? When you launched it, the Airtable of marketing 5 companies is really cool. Like we've used ourselves for growth stories. Part of that to build that X list of companies and updates in real time. Subscribe to the newsletter to get it. um, what are some insights for that process?
Yeah, I think that we realized early on that whatever is the most like helpful content rises to be successful. The market maps and the databases that you're mentioning, we did really as a way to evangelize and showcase what the Web3 growth ecosystem was all about. As I said, we started the first Web3 growth community, but I'd really say that our community and the research that we did has paved the way for people understanding that there is an industry here. a lot of VCs, for example, told me after we released that first market map that the market map that we developed was far more sophisticated than any of the VCs had built on like the Web3 growth tooling space. And a lot of them didn't even know that this was like an industry that existed. And so I think that that is sort of like a fascinating thing is like we just sort of like gear our content around like what does it take to evangelize the Web3 growth industry? And I think that that is what set us up for success to build really viral content in a way that if you're thinking about how do I build content that makes my specific Web3 growth tooling company successful, you end up with like much more boring content, is what I'm trying to say here. So we found some unique aspects of building those Web3 growth maps as well that drove a lot of virality. Like one, it was like net new content. Two, every logo that gets featured on the map instantly wants to share it because they're like, this is our industry. We're proud to be celebrated. We made it on the map, right? That makes it very viral. Then you get all the comments that are saying from companies that are not on the map saying, why was I not on the map? I should have been in this category. That also makes it even more viral. So I think that these three things, right? Like being featured, being not featured, and just like net new unique content really drive virality in the algorithm. And we've seen that both times. Like each of the market maps that we did in the past, each got over 200,000 organic impressions on Twitter. So pretty viral growth from like a purely organic, we're not talking about bots, we did no advertising on them standpoint.
That's quite the metric, 200,000. That's really good. What do you have planned next for Safari's marketing stack? I mean, your community is robust. You were keep telling me that you're gonna, you know, launch some really cool features.
We've gone step by step as you're hearing throughout this mini cast. Started with community, then built the market, then built research to help people understand the market, and then we built tools. And so we're really bullish on the vision of both like marketing attribution and building CDPs, which are known as customer data platforms. Our first original thesis was that Web3 wouldn't grow until it had its own distribution channels. And the way to enable those distribution channels is to have robust attribution, the ability to understand what is the impact of my spend on those distribution channels and my time spent on creating content on other distribution channels. And so we built one of the first Web3 attribution platforms and had a lot of success there. But I think that where we're seeing all the most savvy teams moving, and our platform has made adjustments earlier than I think most. I think people would consider us the first CDP today, is really building around user profiles. So how can I understand of the users that are coming to my first party website more about them, both from what are they doing within my dApp, but also enriching that information on those user profiles with on-chain data, social identities, and also social graphs. These are some of the really interesting aspects that we get from an on-chain data standpoint that it wasn't technically possible before. It was just that the user behavior of crypto users is changing and the ethos of crypto marketers is changing. So now we have a sort of like perfect opportunity to build out really robust profiles that help brands connect with their users in a more direct way than they did previously.
As you're building this stack, what would you say are your three favorite metrics when it comes to Web3 growth?
I think the challenge with metrics is that it should be hyper specific to whatever dApp or protocol they're for. My favorite metric, which definitely isn't talked about enough in crypto, is like revenue. Straight up, most simple metric. Not enough crypto companies are talking about how they make money. There's so much hand waviness of this metric and that metric and the other metric. But it's like, we made a meme about this on Safari's Twitter the other day. It's like, just show me a company that makes revenue. That's all I want to see. And then, tracing back from if you have a real revenue metric, then it'll be clear based on your specific protocol, what are the driver metrics, as we call them, that drive that core KPI, and marketing metrics flow into that. Yeah, I'd say one, it's hyper specific to the protocol, and two, like, please tell me you make money somehow.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was writing for growth stories about wallet lifetime value, right? Which I think people don't really care. And there's definitely something to be said between user lifetime value and wallet lifetime value.
I
We'll
think
leave
people
that
do
to
care. But I think today it's too difficult to figure out what LTV means in crypto. It just we we need to do the basics, which is why I'm like kind of joking, but also very serious about the revenue metric. And then from there, we can get into more like complex marketing metrics like LTV, which was notoriously difficult to track in Web2. And I think that if you asked any Web3 protocol today what their LTV of their users is, they'll have no idea. But I also think that that's not like necessarily a fault of their marketer, more so about the state and maturity of the industry today.
Thank you, Justin. Really appreciate you coming on board. For those still with us after about 15 minutes this time, to make sure to subscribe, apply for cohort number 8. We'll see you in the next episode.
Yeah, see you then.